Hi everyone! Let's start today with a question. Do you have a favourite story from someone in your family? A grandparent, parent, uncle, auntie, sibling? Has that story ever changed how you see things or how you live every day? When I was little, I loved listening to stories in my family about food. Growing up in China meant my favourite treat was buying a warm bun for 20 cents. It was my dad's favourite too when he was little. When my mum was little in Australia, she'd get a huge bag of lollies from the lolly shop every Sunday with her dad, or a tray of mangoes off the side of the road. When my mum's mum was little, she bought bags of broken biscuits really cheap from the back of the Arnott's factory as her special treat. But these stories aren't just about food. They tell us where our families lived, what their days were like, and what mattered to them. They helped us understand our place in the world. In Australia, especially, stories that connect people to country, water, land, sky are really powerful. For Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, stories are a way of holding and passing down knowledge, history, and identity in families, communities, clans. They teach us who we come from and how we belong in Australia. So today, we're exploring a book that honours those connections. Remembering Lionsville, written and illustrated by Bronwyn Bancroft, a Bundjalung artist and storyteller. This book is about family, memory, and country. It's full of Bancroft's real memories and the stories she heard growing up, passed down from generation to generation. So, our big question today is, how do these stories we carry shape us? Let's go!
Remembering Lionsville, written and illustrated by Bronwyn Bancroft.
We went to sleep looking at the night sky and never thought about snakes or spiders or other animals in the bush around us. I remember the green tree frogs getting into the pipes and going ribbip, ribbip all night. We always felt safe. Lionsville is a special place. There's so much history here. Uncle Pat calls this a secret place. It was always surrounded by rivers and mountains, and no one knew it was there. The rivers and mountains were natural boundaries until white people came to the area. Being in my father's mother's land reminds me of how the old people lived. And when I walk around, I imagine walking in their footsteps. The best thing I remember is getting out of the stuffy car, changing into my bathers, and jumping straight into the creek. There were goannas, beady lizards, and sometimes a snake. My elder brothers would say, "Snake!" and we'd duck underwater and let it swim where it needed to go. There were so many birds too. Uncle Pat says they each have a song of their own. It was like a bush orchestra. As a little kid, I remember eating, and I remember falling asleep listening to the adults talk. I learned a lot that way. Uncle Pat is still teaching me how to survive and learn the country. He tells me stories about the past as we sit under the 70-year-old pear tree. He remembers the lady who planted it. I always have to say, which century is that, Pat? 1800s or 1900s? He has a fantastic memory.
Remembering Lionsville is told in first person, acting as an autobiographical recount of the highlights of Bancroft's childhood told directly and intimately to the reader. It isn't necessarily chronological and explores the power of oral storytelling through the sharing of stories Bancroft heard growing up, her first-hand experiences, and then through bringing the story to life by directly addressing the reader. The ending of the text turns to Bancroft's current connection to land and family, speaking directly to the reader, discussing how important it is to cherish older people and their stories because they are a direct link to the past. Bancroft's Janorran clan cultural worldview is interwoven throughout Remembering Lionsville. The key themes of family, country, and belonging are present and intersect on every page, and Bancroft's representation is shaped purely through her intimate lens in addition to her demographic, children, where the stories told are true, but are framed in a way that centers safety, connection, and cultural pride. Bancroft often addresses the reader directly, with examples like, "Come on, let's have a swim and I'll tell you some more later," inviting the reader into Bancroft's experience of country, creating a shared connection and sense of belonging. Bancroft is the central character and narrator of the story. Everything is told through her perspective or lens. Through her voice and depiction in illustrations and images, we see Bancroft integrate herself into family and country, representing a narrator who shares the aspects of her childhood and cultural lineage to pass on the value of storytelling and history to young readers. The setting of Remembering Lionsville is Lionsville. Located in the valley of Washpool and Enga forests, Lionsville is on Bundjalung country. It has 3 levels of settings. Physical in the idea that it is the land and country that Bancroft and her family are connected to. Temporal in terms of the storytelling and generational aspects of both past and present, seeing as they're explored. And cultural in terms of family roles, history and survival through an intimately Jaboran lens. Lionsville is the anchor of the whole text. Lionsville is a special place. There's so much history here. Through analysing my favourite excerpt of Remembering Lionsville, note the Indigenous Australian art style and colour palette explored by Bancroft herself. The composition has high salience and is playful as well as culturally relevant for Stage 2 students to explore. Note the collage character participants of the past and aged photos brought back to life in Bancroft's artistic interpretation of country and memory. The characters' contact gaze with each other, family, and the surrounding environment, country, symbolise the interconnected nature of the aforementioned themes. An important word to explore with students is country with a capital C. The cultural importance of Indigenous Australian connection with land and identity and belonging is ever present. It ties with all experiences, memories, representations, or perspectives. A favourite phrase of note is Bancroft's exploration of Annie Ellis's locket in the text, which contained a photo of Bancroft's great-grandfather John Tyndall. Annie Ellis never took it off, keeping it close as a symbol of love and generational memory. A potentially appropriate learning activity for students would include a yarning circle. Note, if possible, a local elder or respected community member should be present to lead the yarning circle. After acknowledgement of country, students take turns with an area-appropriate talking stick, think wood type, and build on oral storytelling skills based on what they've learned from Remembering Lionsville. The focus is on listening, turn-taking, and relationality, creating a culturally relevant environment for students to explore story in. In this activity, students can explore Bancroft's use of pattern and colour by creating their own artwork using dots, arcs, tracks, imitating Bancroft's art style. Students then add their favourite line from the book and insert themselves into the scenery, responding to Bancroft's invitation into her stories and memories. This explores the relationship between visual symbols, identity, and emotion. In this proposed memory writing or creative writing activity, students write a 5-sentence memory snapshot based on the sentence stems to the right. This includes sensory descriptors to anchor their memories, with a closing pathos sentence appealing to an audience's emotions, sharing how the memory made them feel. The focus on this activity is to build personal voice and autobiographical writing skills. When applying differentiation to students in the creative writing activity, one example for extending students would be to elongate the writing exercise by writing a response to how Bancroft's book shaped the way they experience storytelling. For students that require scaffolding, the activity can be condensed into 1 or 2 sentences and adjusted into a partnered activity, with alternative sentence stems and the addition of word banks and a glossary to assist in engaging with the task. This, in addition, would help EALD learners engage more meaningfully as well. The 2 texts I've chosen for Remembering Lionsville are The Art and Country, A Treasury for Children, also by Bronwyn Bancroft. This text was selected as it can be used to examine and revisit Remembering Lionsville through emotion, patterns, shapes, and colours as students move through each book in the selection. The second text is Little Yarns by ABC Kids Listen, as it's an authentic First Nations storytelling podcast that guides students through country via soundscapes and children's voices and story. Both texts extend how stories, whether spoken, written, and/or visual, shape who we are and how we interact with the world. The KLA I've selected is Human Society and Its Environment, or HISSE, as Remembering Lionsville explores every outcome, including Aboriginal cultures and histories, via Bancroft's identity and story. Geography, via exploring Lionsville and its natural and built features within story. And history, considering how Australia's past is explored through Bancroft's memories and intimate sharing of her family lineage through an age-appropriate, uplifting lens.